Hi guys, today I'm back with another Oily Skin Diaries foundation review. Today it is all about the Dior Skin Forever Undercover Foundation. This is the latest foundation to the Dior line. I have reviewed the Air Flash, which I will link to down below, and I also have the original, I guess you would call it, Forever Foundation, so let me know if you'd like to see a review on that. There will be timestamps down below to lead you through the review, along with a blog post that shows this foundation in my shade, which is 40, swatched against some more popular shades in case you are trying to find a match. But let's go ahead and get started. So the Dior Forever Undercover Foundation claims to be a 24-hour wear, full coverage, but also fresh and weightless, which sounds really delightful. It comes in 24 different shades, and it seems to have a very good range that goes quite deep. I haven't actually seen it in person, but it does look really nice. You're getting it in this kind of plastic bottle with a squeeze tube on it there. I find that really convenient and easy to use, and then that way you can also more easily control how much is coming out of the bottle. You're getting 1.3 fluid ounces in here, which is above the size of an average foundation. You're generally getting about a fluid ounce. It is, however, of course, a luxury foundation, so it retails for 64 Canadian and 52 American. That being said, I've had really good experiences with Dior's complexion products and their lip stuff. I think that's what they do best. They also make some great skincare. So I'm going to be using this today. I also have the Undercover Concealer. I have their powder and primer, and I'm just going to be putting a few Dior things on my face, and we'll see how they all wear together, of course, throughout the day. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this half of my face, and we will get into application. So I'm going to go ahead and dot some on this side of my face, and I use the Dior Forever primer on this side of my face, as I mentioned, and the first time I used this, I was so surprised with the amount of coverage I got out of so little foundation. I'm using a brush today as well, and if you would like to see it applied with a sponge, I have a Get Ready With Me using it, so that will be linked down below. But this claims to have double the coverage of their original Forever Fluid Foundation, and it says it's good for all skin types: sensitive, dry, combination, oily, has a matte finish with full coverage, and of course that claim to 24-hour wear, which we will not be testing out today. I have to take their word for it on that part, I guess. But I find it does have really high coverage, but it does have kind of this weightless but still powdery feel that doesn't look too powdery. I still don't know how much someone with dry skin would love this, but I do. I have really been enjoying this. I have tested this out a few times, but of course we'll put it through the full test today. And one thing I want to note when you are picking out your shade is to be careful of the numbers, because they don't necessarily go lightest to deepest. They kind of move around based on undertone as well. So I always recommend doing a lot of Google research. That's how I always pick out my shade, is try to find someone who looks like me or near me, and then gonna do a little bit of a deep dig. So as you can see, I think it just has such a beautiful finish on the skin for something that does add quite a bit of coverage versus this side. I have oily, acne-prone skin, and I do have some active hormonal breakouts right now from hormones, not makeup. So I think it does a really good job covering all of that up without really much product. And because this is a fuller coverage foundation, I don't necessarily need to layer it up on my entire face. It does a really good job when you kind of go back in, dot it on any problem areas you may have. I let it set just a titch, and then I'll kind of go in and pat it into those more problem areas. If you do have a drier skin type or even normal, I don't know that you'd necessarily need to set this. It does dry down, not super fast, but it does definitely dry down quite well. But it doesn't feel tight on the skin either. So the foundation hasn't completely set on my skin. As you can see, it doesn't have the most flat matte finish. It actually has a tiny bit of like a skin-like sheen to it, but nothing that looks shiny or greasy. I think it has an absolutely beautiful finish, especially considering the amount of coverage that it has. And looking up close to my skin, like, I'm obviously wearing makeup, especially where I do have quite textured skin right now. You can't really hide that, but I do think it looks really good on the skin. It has a pretty weightless feel, and it does not necessarily look like skin, but it's really close considering the amount of coverage that you're getting out of it. There is a little bit of a scent to it. You get that with a lot of high-end foundations, but I don't find it's anything that lasts on my skin or anything that is kind of like smothering me. I know with the Huda Beauty foundation, for like an hour after I had that on, there was quite a strong scent to it, but I don't get that with this one. It's something that you kind of smell and then you kind of forget about it and it kind of goes away. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the concealer now. I figured I would show you that. This is the Dior Skin Forever Undercover Concealer. concealer, and this has been out for a little while. I think it came out late last year, and I do quite like this. It kind of reminds me of the NARS Creamy Concealer, so it's like a little bit obviously creamier than something like a Shape Tape, but it still does have a nice amount of coverage and, oh goodness, and hydration. So if you do have a drier skin type and you haven't been super into Shape Tape, or if you're a fan of something like the NARS Creamy, this could be a good option. I am mixing two shades together. I'm going to dot this under my eyes and just kind of let it set as I do. I find letting any concealer set, I know I've mentioned this a few times recently, but in case you're new here, I find letting concealers set under my eyes makes a world of difference. I always found that concealers kind of blended away if I don't do this, so this really helps, and I find the fingers help too. As you can see, the concealer did a really nice job brightening up my under eyes. It definitely isn't the most full coverage concealer that I've ever used. You can still see a little bit of darkness in there, but I do think it has a beautiful finish. You can see it has a little bit more sheen than the foundation, and I'm going to use a powder to brighten up under there anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and put on the rest of my makeup, take some flash photos, and I'll be right back. And I am back rocking Dior's most iconic lipstick shade, which is 999. As I mentioned, everything I'm wearing will be listed down below if you're curious to see what else is on my face, but I am also wearing, I forgot I own this, it is the Dior Forever Skin Extreme Control Compact Foundation, so I'm pretty sure this can be used as a powder foundation as well. I've mostly only ever used this to set my face, so I used a little bit of this and a little bit of their mattifying loose powder, and I love the way that everything looks on my face. It looks incredible. The primed side is perhaps ever so smoother than the unprimed side, but overall things look really, really good. And as I've mentioned, with these breakouts, I am a little bit more picky with my foundations because I'm noticing things tend to catch on them, tend to look quite dry, and so far this looks incredible. As for photos, when I took it here with all of my lighting, I thought it looked really good. You can see there's a little bit of a sheen to my skin. This is with just the foundation and the concealer, no powder or anything like that, and the primer that I'm wearing also has SPF 20, and I didn't really notice any difference on the prime side, so having a primer in there or having an SPF in a primer I think is just such a great idea. It's just an extra added bonus of sun protection. And then when I did flash photo, I also thought it looked really good. Like I mentioned, I am wearing concealer, and I find a lot of the time concealer can really kind of light up under my eyes because I do tend to go quite a bit lighter under my eyes, and I did not have that issue today. So far things are looking really, really good. I'm gonna go ahead and go about my day. I'm actually going to hopefully get a new Ontario license. I've been living in Ontario for 2 years and have not transferred my license yet, so I'm gonna go get my license photo taken, and maybe I will show you how that looks if it ends up working out. But either way, I will check back with you midday in some natural light. So we are back up close and personal. I just made it back from the driver's license place. Wow, that was much longer than I had expected, so I'm checking in a little bit later than I had anticipated, but I definitely spent a lot of time on my kind of hand like this, feeling hopeless and tired and hangry, and then it was raining outside. I had a scarf on, and things look awesome. It's not particularly cold or warm today. It actually kind of warmed up a little bit today, but I think things look so good on my skin. So I am going to blot a little bit just with some toilet paper. I cannot be bothered to find blotting sheets, and it does just as good a job in my opinion. And I noticed when I went to take like the eye test, I had to put my face up on one of those kind of like eye test things, and I did get a little bit of transfer. I'm getting a little bit of transfer onto my toilet paper there, but I get transfer with everything. It's not a big deal, and it didn't actually like come off my face. It just kind of transferred a little bit. So I'm gonna use this Quo brush and some more of the Dior Forever matte translucent powder. Oh, Rue's awake. You want to say hi? You say Mom just got home. Good morning, even though it's early afternoon. What do you think of my foundation? You see, you always rub it on my fur. You're so cute. Anyways, things are looking quite good, so I'm going to wear it for a couple more hours. This is a later check-in than I had anticipated, as I already mentioned, but I will check back with you at the end of the night or day to give you my final thoughts. It is now the end of my makeup day, and it hasn't really been that long since I last checked in, but because I did do a check-in quite late in the day, the end of the day is coming a little bit sooner. But I have worn this foundation plenty of times and do know that I really enjoy it. As you can see here on my skin right now, I'm not even going to bother blotting or powdering. Things look so good. It holds up so well on my face, and today I did do kind of like a full face of Dior products, but I have used it with other primers, other powders, and I have really enjoyed the wear time of it every time that I've worn it. I don't feel like there's a huge difference between the primed and unprimed side, but what I will say is that I do enjoy that that primer does have an SPF of 20 in there. I think that that is a great bonus, and it didn't seem to affect any of the flash photos. It doesn't feel like it's oxidized. I think it looks just so good on my skin. Incredibly kind of flawless and weightless, but at the same time it's not heavy or cakey, and it doesn't look overdone, if that makes sense. I felt really comfortable wearing this out, and I do want to say I did not blot before my license photo. That is how committed I am to this foundation review. I haven't actually seen the photo yet, but we'll see. I know I'm gonna look like a criminal either way. What I will say is it does almost have, and I know I mentioned in the beginning it didn't have this, but it does almost have a little bit of a tightness to it. And if you have an oily skin, for me anyways, that feels reassuring and comforting to me. It does not feel like it's going to slip and slide around. It feels kind of locked into my skin. It doesn't feel dry or anything like that, but there is just this kind of sense of security I have with this foundation. So I definitely really enjoy that. I like the concealer as well. I love the powder. All of the products I used today I actually quite enjoy, so they played really nicely together. And overall, if you were wondering if I would recommend this foundation, I absolutely would. I think if you have normal to combination or oily skin, you'll really like this. As for dry skin folks, I'm not 100% sure how you'll feel about this. It's always hard for me to gauge, but it is a really beautiful formula, and I always recommend getting a sample before picking it up, and that way you'll be able to pick your best shade and see if it works out for you. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out some recent foundation reviews that I have done down below, and if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!